Hi, welcome back to anatomy classes. This is Dr. Rajita, and today we are going to continue with the revision of systemic histology. So here is the systemic histology part 2. So before going into the topic, if you all like my work, like, share and press the subscribe icon and bell icon which is right next to it. And if you all like my work, don't forget to thumbs up, so which motivates me to take more such videos. So without any ado, we shall just begin with the systemic histology part 2. In systemic histology part 2, so these are the slides which I am going to discuss. So today we are going to do with the respiratory system, endocrine system and excretory system. If you want to know about the digestive system, I have already taken digestive system in my previous session and I am dropping the YouTube link in the description box. So you can check it out for digestive system slides. And if you all want to know about general histology part 1 and part 2 which was taken previously, that also I am dropping in the description box. Please go through it. So here these are the list of the slides which I am going to discuss today. Under respiratory system, trachea and lung; endocrine system, pituitary gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland and suprarenal gland. And under excretory system, I am going to discuss three topics, that is kidney, ureter and urinary bladder. So here is the trachea, which is a part of respiratory system. So trachea, we know it is a tube-like structure and which is patent always. So the patency is because of its hardness. So it is having a hard structure within it, which is called as hyaline cartilage. So we'll go one by one first. So internal lining of the trachea, it is lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Pseudo-stratified, pseudo means false, stratified means layers. So here the epithelium appears to be many layered, but it is a single layered columnar cells. Because of the nuclei which are present at different layers, we can see it as stratified. So here is the pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. So this is the pseudo-stratified ciliated. Just below the epithelium we can see connective tissue which is called lamina propria and muscularis mucosa, and below that we can see the submucosa. So here is the submucosa which is rich in serous glands and mucous glands. So we can see many serous glands and mucous glands in the submucosa. And within the submucosa, we can see the plates of hyaline cartilage. So hyaline cartilage is the main identification feature for trachea. So here is the hyaline cartilage which is surrounded by perichondrium, and cell nests with chondrocytes are present in the hyaline cartilage. Outer to the submucosa, we can see some connective tissue present, and trachealis muscle, which is a smooth muscle present within the wall of the trachea. So here is the trachealis smooth muscle fibers we can see present within the wall of the trachea. Let's see little closer view. Here this is the pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar which is well appreciated here with cilia. So here we can see the cilia, and here we can see the nuclei which are at different levels. So the nuclei you can see here, they are at different levels, which makes you to appear as pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. And below that is the connective tissue. So here, from here to here is the connective tissue, and below that we are seeing the glands. So the glands here are the serous glands which have rounded nuclei, and mucous glands are also present. So identification points for the trachea, it is lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Goblet cells are present which are interspersed between the epithelial cells. And submucosa contains mucus secreting acini, serous secreting acini and plates of hyaline cartilage. The next slide here is the lung. So the lung, it is identified by very irregular gaps. These irregular gaps we can see, they are called as alveoli. So where the exchange of gaseous material happens. So exchange of gaseous material should happen through a very thin epithelium. So these alveoli are lined by the thinnest epithelium which are called as simple squamous epithelium. So there are two types of cells which are lining these alveoli, which are called as type 1 alveolar cells or type 1 pneumocytes, and type 2 alveolar or type 2 pneumocytes. And type 1 alveolars are more abundantly present and they are simple squamous cells. Whereas type 2 alveolar cells, they are surfactant producing cells which keeps the surface tension within the lungs. And we can see the cut sections of bronchioles also here. The cut sections of bronchioles are seen, which are lined internally by the columnar epithelium, and ciliated columnar epithelium are present in the bronchioles. Sometimes the cut sections of bronchi are also seen, which are identified by the plates of hyaline cartilage and pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium, just like trachea. So here is a closure view showing the simple squamous epithelium. So we can see the simple squamous epithelium here. I am just marking around them, and we can see the cut sections of bronchioles. So cut sections of bronchioles are seen, which are lined by the ciliated columnar epithelium, and a smooth muscle layer is present around the bronchioles. So bronchioles are those which have the diameter less than 1 mm. So they doesn't have the cartilage around them, just they are surrounded by the smooth muscle fibers. So identification features for the lung: alveoli, irregularly shaped alveoli are present and which are lined by simple squamous epithelium, and alveoli contains two types of cells, as if I told just now, type 1 and type 2 pneumocytes. And apart from that, within the lumen of the alveoli, macrophages are present, which are called as dust cells, which engulf the dust particles entering into the respiratory tract. And cut sections of intrapulmonary bronchi, bronchioles are also seen. So next is starting with the endocrine system. So the first slide here under the endocrine system is the pituitary gland, and pituitary gland is very easy to identify under 10x because the one side of the pituitary gland is brightly stained, the other side of the pituitary gland is palely stained. That is how you can identify. The brightly stained area is called as uh, adenohypophysis. So this is adenohypophysis, and the palely stained area here, this is called as neurohypophysis. And intermediate zone, this is the pars intermedia, which is present between the anterior and posterior pituitary. Adenohypophysis forms the anterior pituitary. So adenohypophysis forms the anterior pituitary, and neurohypophysis forms the posterior pituitary. Nerve fibers and some neuroglial cells which are called as pituocytes. Whereas adenohypophysis contains of acidophils, basophils and chromophobe cells. Acidophils and basophils are brightly stained, which take up eosin and basophilic stain, that is acidophilic and basophilic stain they are. So which takes up eosin and hematoxylin. And chromophobe, phobia means doesn't like. So it doesn't take up any color. Chroma means color. So they are paler colored cells which are interspersed between this acidophils and basophils. Acidophils and basophils together called as chromophil cells because they take up the stain brightly. So here is the adenohypophysis or anterior pituitary showing the acidophils. So here is the acidophils, and we can see the basophils, which is blue color, and paler color cells. Here these are the chromophobe cells which are paler in color. And in between the cells we can see lot of sinusoids or blood capillaries where they pour their secretions directly into the bloodstream because they are endocrine glands, so they doesn't have ducts. This is neurohypophysis, which is quite pale present, and we can see lot of nerve fibers. Some blue dots here which are the nuclei of pituocytes or the neuroglial cells present in the posterior pituitary or neurohypophysis. So let's see some identification points of pituitary. Anterior pituitary is known as adenohypophysis, which contain chromophils. Chromophils are of two varieties, acidophils and basophils, which take a pink and blue color stain here, eosin and hematoxylin. And chromophobe, phobia means the not liking it. So they doesn't take up a color. Chroma means color. So they are pale cells which doesn't take up any stain. And posterior pituitary is known as neurohypophysis, which contains axons and pituocytes. Pituocytes are the neuroglial cells which are present in the posterior pituitary. Next is the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is identified by many thyroid follicles. So here are the thyroid follicles which are present. The pale color, which is pink color structure called as colloid, which is present within the thyroid follicles. And if you see the lining of the thyroid follicles, it is lined by simple cuboidal epithelium. So they are lined by the simple cuboidal epithelium. We can see the nuclei clearly lining the thyroid follicles. In between the follicles, we can see some cells present outside the follicles also, which are present outside the follicles. They are called as parafollicular cells. Para means on the either side. So the cells present on the either side of the follicle are called as parafollicular cells. Parafollicular cells secrete calcitonin, which is involved in calcium metabolism, whereas the thyroid follicles cells which are lining the thyroid follicle secrete T3, T4 thyroxine hormones. This is a closure view to show the cuboidal epithelial cells. So here is the cuboidal epithelial cells. We can see the nuclei present in each cuboidal epithelium, which is a rounded nucleus present in the cuboidal epithelium. And in the center we can see the pink color structure, which is the colloid. And in between the follicles, the cells which are present in between the follicles are called as parafollicular cells. And as we know, it is an endocrine gland. It too have lot of cut sections of blood vessels between the follicles, where they pour their secretions directly into the blood vessels. So identification features, the cut sections of follicles are seen, which are lined by the cuboidal epithelium, and these follicles are filled with the colloid, and parafollicular cells are also present in between the follicles. Next is the parathyroid. Parathyroid is a endocrine gland. There are two superior, two inferior parathyroid, which are associated with the thyroid gland. So we can see one side thyroid gland. So here I am marking, this is the thyroid gland, and the rest of it, this part is the parathyroid. So you can see the bright blue color stain is the parathyroid. Parathyroid is identified by the cluster of cells. They doesn't have a specific pattern. Cluster of cells, and between the cells we can see lot of gaps which are called as blood filled gaps, which are called as sinusoids, where they pour their secretions directly into the sinusoids. And the cells, there are two varieties of cells. Majorly the parathyroid, the cells are called chief cells or principal cells, which produce parathormone, which is also a calcium metabolism. It regulates calcium metabolism hormone. And the other cells are called as oxyphil cells. Oxyphil cells will get matured only when the person reaches the adolescent age, and exact function of the oxyphil cells is not known yet. So here is the closure view of a parathyroid, where we can see clusters of cells without any gap. They are like blue color basophilic cells, which are called as chief cells. And here and there we can see the pink cells, which are called as oxyphil cells, which are eosin stain. They are acidophilic stain. And in between the gaps are called as sinusoids. These irregular gaps what we are seeing here, these are the sinusoids, where they pour their secretions directly into the sinusoids. So peripheral connective tissue intrude inside the gland and dividing the gland into lobules, and these lobules will have contain the clusters of groups of cells, which are contain the chief cells and oxyphil cells. Chief cells are also called as principal cells. Chief cells are the cells which produce parathormone, and oxyphil cells exact function is not known, and they are very few in number. So the next gland here is the suprarenal gland or adrenal gland. The suprarenal gland, we know they are present above the kidneys, and it is differentiated into two parts. The outer part of the gland is called as the cortex, and the middle part of the gland is called as medulla. So from here to here is the what we are seeing here is the cortex. The medulla is not seen that clearly, but still we can see the cortex here. And the outermost part of the gland, it is lined by the capsule here. So this is the capsule which is lining the gland. And the cortex we can differentiate into three parts. The uppermost part is called as zona glomerulosa, where the cells are arranged in the form of inverted horseshoe-like, inverted U-like, horseshoe-like cells are arranged, which are called as zona glomerulosa. and between them we can see the gaps which are called as sinusoids. And below the zona glomerulosa, the next layer is the zona fasciculata. The fasciculata, the cells are arranged in the form of columns. So there are two columns, and in between the columns we will find a sinusoid. Again the cells are present in two columns, and again there are sinusoids. So these are present in the form of columns, which is the identification feature for zona fasciculata. And the deepermost part is called as zona reticularis, where the cells are arranged like meshwork, like reticular, like anastomosing and branching. So that is called zona reticularis. And the middle part of the suprarenal gland is called as medulla, and medulla contains chromophin cells. So let's see the closer view. So here is the capsule, the outer part. We can see the capsule of the suprarenal gland. We can see the connective tissue covering the suprarenal gland, which is nothing but the capsule. And we can see the cells are arranged. We can very well appreciate the cells are arranged in the form of inverted U like. I am drawing the boundaries of it. Inverted U like, and this is called zona glomerulosa. So zona glomerulosa makes 1/5 of the cortex, and where they produce mineralocorticoids. Here is the fasciculata. Zona fasciculata is the next layer where the cells are present in the columns, and in between the columns the gaps are the sinusoids, which are blood filled spaces where they pour their secretions. Fasciculata makes around 3/5 of the cortex, and they produces glucocorticoids, and below that we can see the reticularis. From here to here is the reticularis, where they are haphazardly present. They are like meshwork where they join anastomose and branch, and zona reticularis also makes only 1/5 of the cortex, and they produce six hormones, six corticoids. And the deeper part here is the medulla. Here we can see the medulla. Medulla is identified by the clusters of cells, groups of cells, which are called as chromaffin cells, and these are little larger cells, and these chromaffin cells they produces adrenaline and noradrenaline, which is called fight or flight hormone. So identifications, cortex and medulla are seen. Cortex is further differentiated into zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata and zona reticularis. Medulla contain polyhedral groups of cells which are called as chromaffin cells, and which contain sinusoids. Blood-filled gaps are called as sinusoids. Next is the excretory system here. So the first slide under excretory system is the kidney. So kidney, it is identified as outer cortex and inner medulla. And here we are seeing the cortex of the kidney, where we can see so many glomeruli. So these are the glomeruli which are easy to identify under 10x magnification. So the glomeruli contain cut sections of blood vessels within it and surrounded by a Bowman's capsule, which is called as renal corpuscle or Malpighian corpuscle. And surround near to this glomeruli, we can see proximal convoluted ducts and distal convoluted ducts. The proximal convoluted ducts will have a narrow lumen, and distal convoluted ducts will have little larger lumen. Proximal convoluted ducts are lined by the pyramidal cells, which have brush border appearance on the inner lining, whereas the distal convoluted ducts are just lined by the simple cuboidal or columnar epithelium with a larger lumen. And we can even appreciate the collecting tubules here. One collecting tubules. The collecting tubules, all of them, they join to form the medullary rays, and collecting tubules are more seen in the medulla of the kidney. What we are seeing is here is the cortex. That is the reason we are seeing the glomeruli, PCT, proximal convoluted tubule, and distal convoluted tubule. This is a closure view which is well demonstrating the glomerulus. So here is the Bowman's capsule. I am drawing the outer lining of the Bowman's capsule here, which is like a double layered membrane. And within that we can see the cut sections of blood vessels. with blood cells inside it. So these are the cut sections of the blood vessels which are present inside the glomeruli. We can even appreciate proximal convoluted tubule with a narrow lumen and distal convoluted tubule with a larger lumen. So identification, it is differentiated into outer cortex, inner medulla. Outer cortex contains renal corpuscles which are called Malpighian corpuscles also, and the proximal convoluted tubules and distal convoluted tubules are also seen. And the inner medulla contains mainly collecting ducts and loops of Henle are present in the inner medulla. So the next slide here is the ureter. The ureter, it is lined by the urothelium, which is meant for only lining the urinary tract. So this epithelium is called as transitional epithelium. So the transitional epithelium, here we can see the inner lining is the transitional epithelium, and mucosa is folded into folds, making the lumen to be star-like. You can see the lumen, inside the lumen it is like star-like lumen, and the epithelium is the transitional epithelium where the cells are present into 4 to 6 layers, and the topmost cells are umbrella shaped cells. Sometimes they may be binucleated, and below the lowermost cells are columnar cells, and in between we see the cells called as polyhedral cells, and these cells are adhered together by desmosomes, which are the tight junctions, which is very much needed for urothelium because it doesn't allow the toxic substances to enter inside the tissue of the ureter. So protects the tissue against the corrosion and toxic substances present inside the lumen, that is the urine. And outer to the epithelium we can see the layer of connective tissue which is called lamina propria, and outermost we can see the muscles. So it is a muscular tube where it has got the inner longitudinal and outer circular, whereas if we see the digestive tract, it has got the inner circular and outer longitudinal. Here in the ureter we have got the inner longitudinal and outer circular. So we can see very beautifully present transitional epithelium here. So the having a large cells which are umbrella like, we can see the umbrella like cells on the top, very beautifully present and easy to identify them. And these are polyhedral, cuboidal or polyhedral cells which are presenting in the middle. And the basal most are the columnar cells. We can see the few columnar cells present in the basal part. So this is the transitional epithelium, and we can see even the lamina propria, the connective tissue which is present here. So ureter identification points, the mucosal folds which makes the lumen star-like. It is lined by transitional epithelium, and muscle layer is inner longitudinal, outer circular, smooth muscle fibers present. Next is the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder is also a part of urinary tract. So it is also lined by urothelium or transitional epithelium. So here the mucosal folds which are present, these mucosal folds are called as the rugae, which are the temporary folds, and when the urinary bladder gets distended, these mucosal folds gets disappeared. And it is also lined by the transitional epithelium just like what we saw in the ureter. And below that we can see a nice thick dense lamina propria. So the connective tissue is well differentiated, the lamina propria is well differentiated in the urinary bladder. And below that we are seeing the group of muscles, some are longitudinal, some are circular, and some are oblique. So there is no specific direction of the muscle fibers we can identify in a slide. So they are in all directions, but we can say that inner they are more of longitudinal and middle circular and outer longitudinal. In between, oblique muscles are also present in the wall of the urinary bladder. These muscles, smooth muscles, are called as detrusor muscles. They are called detrusor muscles which are present within the wall of the urinary bladder. So here is a closer view to show the epithelium. So the epithelium is 4 to 6 layers, whereas in the stratified squamous there the epithelium is up to 20 layers. So here the layers are less, they are only to 4 to 6 layers, and we can see the large cells We can see beautifully large cells here. So by seeing the epithelium, we can identify that it is urinary bladder and ureters. So identification, muscular mucosal folds are present which are called as rugae, and they are lined by transitional epithelium. Lamina propria is clearly seen, and thick muscular wall is present made up of longitudinal, circular and oblique muscles, and these all muscles together called as detrusor muscles. Thank you for seeing the session till the end, and hope you all like this session and it would be helpful for you all to prepare for your histology practical exams. All the best. Bye.